This is what happened when a Western democracy froze the bank accounts of its own citizens, without court orders, without criminal charges, and within 48 hours of deciding to act. February 2022 brought an emergency declaration in Canada against trucker protesters blocking streets in Ottawa, and within 2 days, 206 bank accounts containing $7.8 million sat frozen. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland put it bluntly, "The consequences are real and they will bite." That event was not an outlier. It was a preview of capabilities that already exist throughout the Western financial system. What follows is a breakdown of exactly how governments can freeze your money, the legal frameworks that make it possible, and why experts across the political spectrum are raising alarms. Canada offers the clearest recent example, and the timeline is worth examining closely. Prime Minister Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act on February 14, 2022, marking the first use of that law since 1988. By February 16, 2022, the RCMP had transmitted lists of names directly to banks and cryptocurrency exchanges, and the first accounts went dark on February 17, 2022. Between 206 and 257 bank accounts ended up frozen, depending on which testimony you reference, holding approximately 7.8 million Canadian dollars. Crypto holdings took a hit as well, with 34 wallet addresses frozen under the Emergencies Act and another 120 or more locked down through a separate court order. What happened behind closed doors tells an even more interesting story. Meeting notes from February 13, 2022 revealed bank chief executives actively urging government action rather than resisting it. The TD Bank chief executive floated the idea that if protesters received a terrorist designation, his institution could act swiftly. Freeland spelled out the new reality. We now have the tools to follow the money. We can see what is happening and what is being planned in real time. 9 days later, the emergency ended and accounts unfroze. But here is the thing. The legal battle stretched on for years. In January 2024, a federal court ruled that the invocation was unreasonable and violated charter rights. The Federal Court of Appeal unanimously upheld that decision in January 2026, concluding that the blockades fell well short of a threat to national security. Constitutional violations were confirmed, but only years after the freezes had come and gone. The money moved exactly when the government wanted it to move. Similar capabilities exist in the United States under different legal structures, and the foundation dates back more than 50 years. The Bank Secrecy Act of 1970 requires banks to file a currency transaction report for any transaction exceeding $10,000, a threshold that hasn't budged since 1972. Adjusted for inflation, that figure would sit close to $73,000 today. Surveillance numbers are difficult to process. Fiscal year 2023 saw financial institutions file 4.6 million suspicious activity reports, which works out to 12,600 landing on government servers every single day. A Government Accountability Office study found that out of 167 million currency transaction reports filed between 2014 and 2023, law enforcement accessed only 5.4% of them. The information gets gathered on nearly everyone, but rarely sees actual use. Constitutional protections here run weaker than most Americans realize. The Supreme Court ruled in United States v. Miller in 1976 that bank depositors possess no legitimate expectation of privacy in their bank records, reasoning that these documents are voluntarily conveyed to banks. Beyond routine surveillance sits Presidential Emergency Authority, and the International Emergency Economic Powers Act represents its most powerful expression. The act passed in 1977, and it grants the president the authority to block any transaction or to freeze assets involving foreign countries or nationals during a declared national emergency. Since that law took effect, presidents have declared 77 national emergencies invoking those powers. 46 of those emergencies remained active as of September 2025. Recent actions under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act demonstrate unprecedented scale. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, the United States and its allies froze approximately $300 billion in Russian central bank reserves within days. Specific oligarchs faced devastating freezes, with Roman Abramovich watching his Chelsea FC sale proceeds of £2.5 billion frozen in the UK, plus another $7 billion locked down in Jersey. The Office of Foreign Assets Control, known as OFAC, maintains the Specially Designated Nationals list, which contains over 15,200 entries from 155 countries. The moment someone is added to that list, all U.S. assets are blocked instantly and automatically. Getting removed presents enormous challenges, and the process can take several years according to OFAC guidance. Central Bank Digital Currencies, or CBDC, represent what many consider the most significant development in government financial control. A central bank digital currency would replace physical cash with programmable digital money issued directly by the central bank, functioning as a direct liability of the government itself. Programmable money could enable spending restrictions that earmark funds for specific purchase categories, expiration dates that force spending by government deadlines, geographic limits that prevent transactions in certain areas, or behavioral requirements tied to compliance scores. Representative Tom Emmer sponsored the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, and he framed the stakes clearly. He warned that a central bank digital currency, if developed without the privacy protections of cash, could give the federal government an unprecedented ability to surveil Americans' financial transactions and to suppress politically unpopular activity. A Cato Institute survey found that 74% of Americans oppose a central bank digital currency if the government could control what people spend money on and when. China's digital yuan offers a glimpse of where this technology leads, with 2.25 billion digital wallets now created. Senator Mike Lee pointed to early trials, saying China canceled citizens' money after a set period, forcing Chinese citizens to spend their savings at the compulsion of the government. The US has moved away from central bank digital currencies for now. An executive order in January 2025 terminated all federal research into central bank digital currencies, and Fed Chair Powell committed that he would never issue a CBDC while he leads the central bank. Even without a CBDC, Americans have reported losing banking access for what they believe are political reasons. Donald Trump says JP Morgan Chase closed his accounts in February 2021 with 60 days' notice, leading him to file a $5 billion lawsuit in January 2026, alleging political and social motivations. Signature Bank went public in January 2021 with a statement that it would close Trump's accounts, while pledging not to do business with members of Congress who voted against Electoral College certification. Critics have pointed to what they call Operation Choke Point 2.0, alleging that regulators pressured banks to deny crypto companies banking services. Freedom of Information requests pulled FDIC documents confirming that 25 pause letters went out between March 2022 and May 2023, each asking banks to pause all crypto asset-related activity. The facts assembled here tell a straightforward story. Canadian authorities froze 206 accounts within 48 hours under powers later ruled unconstitutional. American financial institutions file 4.6 million suspicious activity reports every year. The president can freeze hundreds of billions in assets under emergency powers. Over 15,000 individuals sit on lists that trigger instant automatic asset blocks. Marta Belcher from the Electronic Frontier Foundation captured the stakes directly when she said that financial transactions tell the story of your life in intimate details, and that financial surveillance is a precursor to censorship. The capability itself stands beyond dispute. That infrastructure exists today. The legal authorities are established and tested. Traditional banking regulations, emergency powers, sanctions lists, and potential digital currencies all point toward the same conclusion. The ability to freeze your money with one click isn't hypothetical, it's operational. What remains unknown is when and how it gets used next.